Yeah, a friend of ours, Camille, made this for us, and we just kind of use it in Moodle, and people ask, can you give me the metaphysics in a picture? You could say this is who we really are here, just abstract, light, Son of God, our true nature. And this is the lens that we look through. And you could say that the goal of the Course is to look through this lens with the Holy Spirit, or in a very, like an ego-less way, where there's no blurry images that produce these images. So like in a movie screen, you know how you got the, what do you call the stuff that goes around it?
The reel?
The reel with the tape. You know, the tape has like images printed on it. And those images are the beliefs and the concepts in the mind. And as the light shines through those images and concepts, you end up seeing a world based on those images and concepts, which include bodies and other bodies. And we've written here attack, defense, as if attack and defense were between bodies. But really, the attack and defense is back here when we choose to look through the ego's distorted filter, which makes projection. And so really our job all the time is to notice when there's irritation, but only clean it back here. We're always cleaning the concepts and the filters. It may start out here, that's why we always deal with specifics, like what I believe happened, and we don't just say, it's just all an illusion, like we just talked about. We really look at what we believe happened, but always to come back to the point where we can clean the mind. And the Holy Spirit may guide the bodies to do certain things to help put it in a position where it can see these concepts and beliefs in a new way. But that's always the purpose. Always the purpose. And even the idea of guidance, as if it's really about a body going and doing certain things, that's just the stepping stones to come to see that we are the Holy Spirit back here. That's the ultimate goal, so this collapses. And then another thing we can go into, which I always have a lot of fun talking about, is the idea of projection. You know, in typical psychological terms, they'll say, well, you're projecting on your partner, or your partner's projecting on you, and that's your stuff, and that's her stuff. And we can use that in a helpful way, but when you start to use the metaphysics of the Course and you say, well, wait a minute, projection, how is this really working? You can't really understand projection the way the Course talks about it in those psychological terms. Because this is the projection. The whole thing is the projection. This doesn't project onto there. Partners don't project onto each other. So that's a big time saver, to be able to allow the mind to pull back and not try to figure out that whole dynamic.
When you carry it on, once you start to see that that whole thing is the projection, then you can see that the Spirit will still use words and talk about it in personal terms. And even in Course in Miracles, talks about special relationship in terms of people, even though it's really the special relationship is the lens, the ego is the specialness, but the Holy Spirit reaches the mind where it believes it's at, like on the screen up there, uses terms, and then the more you work with it, the more mystical it gets. You realize that people really don't do anything. There's no causation going on that screen at all. It's just like going to a movie and seeing the shadows on the screen. They aren't really doing anything to each other. They're just a bunch of shadows that are being projected. So when you work with this stuff over time and you keep working with it, it starts to dawn in your mind that people don't really learn. That's a big one. I know I was in education seemingly for all the time until I saw that was just a concept. People don't learn, people don't really act, people don't do things, and even the doer of believing that you are a human being, a person, a doer, that starts to fade and fade and fade as you start to work these metaphysics, work the forgiveness process over and over and over. And it just gets to be more and more surreal as you're just watching it, because your mind is emptied of the concepts, the images that's down there on the lens. Your mind becomes clean of all those concepts and images, and therefore you don't literally see the world in the same way that you would. And you're in a place of peace. I remember one time at my little peace house in Cincinnati, we had a cat or two there at the peace house, and then this woman came over and she brought another cat, and the cats just started just hissing at each other, and then they turned into these cat races. They would be chasing each other at high speeds around there. They all, you know, and I'm like in the kitchen, like eating my meal, you know, and I'm like drinking, and the people are like running around trying to separate the cats and do something, but to me it was just, that was like the muzak, that was like the soundtrack that was for my lunch. Just had some, you know, just all kinds of things on it. And you can see you can apply it to cats, but then you can start to apply it to human beings as well. You could come home and the people could be screaming and shouting in your kitchen or your living room. You could just go right in and get your milkshake, you know, and whatever you're doing, just kind of go about it, you know, because you don't need to respond and react to it in a sense of it being some kind of a drama, whether it's a cat drama or a people drama or whatever, unless you are ascribing meaning to it. And that's the beautiful thing, you know, when you start to practice this more and more, you feel that peace goes with you wherever you go. It doesn't matter whether, I mean, I've been in countries where gunshots, you start boom, boom, you start hearing gunshots and this. I've been off in rural areas of third world countries and where there's like civil wars going on and this. And it's like, I just go about my day, you know, it's like, oh well, it's just a dream, you know, and because you don't give any validity or reality to the environment. You know, you really do get settled into this thing that you're just watching this thing, you know, and that it really cannot touch you. You have that sense of invulnerability. When you actually follow this out and you do the mind training with it, you feel peace, you feel invulnerability, you feel a sense of deep strength and connection with God, and you can literally watch anything through the body's eyes. You know, you're not really watching through the body's eyes, you're just watching what they're reporting. So it works, but it just takes a lot of practice. If you make exceptions, then you still will find situations where you're tempted to believe that it's real, and then get into a fearful reaction with it.
I can share one of the stories where I was practicing with this. I was driving on the highway down to the Kentucky house, and this ambulance drove by, and I always get this feeling when an ambulance drives by, like this emotion, almost like, I don't know, I was like a doctor in a past life and just loved to be of service in a helpful way in terms of the world, you know, like fixing bodies and this emotion. Oh, I've got it. I'm like, oh, not this time. Okay, Holy Spirit, help me see this differently. The ambulance was going by and I watched the emotion come up and didn't take me over, just saw it. Okay, Holy Spirit, be with me. I kept driving, and as I was driving by, this accident had just happened. I don't know how the ambulance got there so quick. The tire was still spinning on one of the cars that was upside down. And the policeman, that was like bodies on the ground, another car was still spinning, got up as I was driving by with my window open, and he looked up to me. And he reaches to his hand and goes like this as I'm going by, and then nods his head, and I'm like, whoa, and then goes back to his work, like he was just playing his part. You've done a good job. This is no longer a serious matter with this scene. And I just kept going. So.
I'd like to ask a question. I've worked a lot on giving the Holy Spirit my whole mind and all my emotions and thoughts, and the wording you put to it, that everything is a symbol. And I have a little trouble, I realize, with the idea that it always has to be like this peaceful, tranquil thing on the outside that is shown. I experience that most often, not always, but most often I have that on the inside, and I'm willing to have the outside be whatever is of service. Can you just comment that? Am I not getting something, or because I'm not sure?
Yeah, it's actually beautiful because, we start off with symbols of peace, and we can describe those, and the Holy Spirit uses those during the mind training, but actually that's where this is all heading. It's heading to a place where you come into an actual experience and the symbols all just merge together. It's just, the screen is the screen, and it looks however it looks. That's actually what this is all about. It's not like you're aiming to have symbols of peace, or that peace would ever look a certain way, because it doesn't have a look to it. It doesn't have a form to it, but it is a qualitative experience that is there. And in the end there's like the merged, and for that to be consistent, then the final, we could say, duality that leaves is like this inner-outer thing, where you lose the idea of that something's outside and something's inside. So then the peace just is peace. It's not like an inner peace or an outer peace. It doesn't have to do with the body, like a soft heart or feeling calm within your body while flames rage, or while chaos seems to rage outside. It's just like this merging in together where it's just all peace. And there's no inside and outside to it. It is continuously a letting go of any kind of interpretation or meaning that's given to anything, including the body. So in the end, peace of mind is a state of mind that is literally, it transcends or is independent of the body. We've used examples like with Ramana Maharshi, or saints that seem to have been diagnosed with a tumor or so on and so forth, and then some of those pictures of the Ramana Maharshi's final hours, where people say, my gosh, the body is so thin, and the face, it's almost like you can almost start to see the bone structure appearing because of how thin, and then these glowing eyes, almost that kind of like stand out, almost look like it's been airbrushed. An old Ramana Maharshi picture that's been airbrushed, because the eyes are so bright, they're just so sparkly, and then his final words kind of like, why are you sad? Where could I go? Just the beautiful blessing of the words is right there, it's tuned in with the bright eyes, and yet the rest of the body, doesn't appear as what someone may say, that doesn't look very peaceful to me, or looks like he could use a good meal, or something, or whatever the ego will kind of read onto it. But it is down that way where you just go deeper and deeper with the peace, and you just let go of every scrap of idea about how things look, appearances, the position of the body, whether it's up or down, or all those different interpretations that are tied into the body, they have to be washed away completely, yeah.